Hello and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today I'll be showing you how to cycle from Edmonton in North London to Enfield Lock. This ride takes about 25 minutes and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. By public transport, the same journey takes around half an hour, so getting on your bike is a good way to do it. If you find this video useful or you just enjoy watching it, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as I try to post new videos just like it every week. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to contribute as well, then you can find a link in the description below the video. Alright, let's get going. So we're starting by Edmonton Green station and we're going to use the protected cycle lanes to get across the junction at the Green. If I had one criticism of this section of Cycleway, it's that there are a lot of traffic lights and they're not always green for you. In these videos I usually cut out the wait times at traffic lights, and I've done that here, so just be aware that it can be a little bit frustrating just through this stretch north of Edmonton Green station. Overall though, these cycle paths are excellent. For the first half of this video, we're going to be following the route of Cycleway 1, which is a key north-south route. And while it's running through the borough of Enfield, it's a fully protected route with segregated cycle tracks just like this. Although there are a few slightly different styles, which I'll show you as we go on, so you know what to expect. This here is an off-road cycle track, but we soon join the carriageway and we are in a lightly protected lane which is separated from traffic by these wandorkers on the right. These obviously aren't going to be stopping any cars anytime soon, but they do give you a feeling of being separate from traffic, and I find it quite comfortable riding on them, especially when the lane is reasonably wide as they are here. As you can see here, certain bits are also reinforced with a proper segregated curb line just to keep traffic away from you at junctions. You'll see that the style of the protection on the lanes changes relatively frequently. In fact, it's actually quite a tour de force of all the different ways that you can segregate a cycle track. But I don't think it really matters from the perspective of a user. As you're cycling down here, the important thing is that you do feel segregated pretty much the whole time. A little shout out for these plastic curbs on the right, by the way, more here. I actually really like them as a form of light segregation. They're a lot cheaper than digging up the road, and I think they should be seen in more schemes. Personally, I prefer them to plastic ones. Now, unfortunately, when we cycled down here for this video, that section of Cycleway was actually being dug up, I think for utility works, but normally you would just get a cycle lane down there, just as we've had here. Now, I want to talk about bus stops, as there are quite a lot along this route. The bus stops on this route are done with what's called bus borders. Basically, you cycle through the bus stop, and if you're getting the bus here, there's a bus stop coming up now, you would board the bus by walking across the raised platform in the cycle track. From the perspective of someone cycling, this is a reasonably good way to do it, as it means that you don't have to overtake a parked bus. For example, imagine if we had to go to the right of that bus that was just in the lane. It wouldn't be very fun to have to swing out, but we don't, we just go up the left of it. Now, as you can see from this bus stop coming up on the left, people generally don't wait on the border itself. They usually wait on the shelter, which is set back a little bit, but sometimes they will stand on the border. But either way, it's important that when you're cycling over those, that you're careful and cognizant of anybody who is boarding the bus or waiting there. Go really slowly and just give plenty of space to people who need to cross. Just let them have priority. It'll only slow you down for a couple of seconds. Now, this little design here is a bit confusing. I actually think I was supposed to cycle on the pavement here, judging by the cycle symbols on it, but I missed that and I mostly stay on the road. The protected lanes actually give up through this section of Ponders End Town Centre, and it's a really disappointing design which prioritises a lot of parking over any space for cycling. That said, it is only a relatively short stretch and we're immediately back in a lane, and you can see that the cycling infrastructure is helping people do things like run errands or just pop to the shops. Now, at certain points, the cycle lane has a tendency to veer into a service road like this, and generally it works pretty well. It does it about 3 or 4 times during this video stretch, and that time you can see it work perfectly well. It'll work perfectly well the second time as well when I point it out. However, the third time will show the shortcomings of that approach, and I won't need to point it out because it'll be very obvious. Generally, this is a really decent route for a main road, and I think the London Borough of Enfield Council doesn't really get enough love for the investment it's given to cycling. We really are in proper outer London here, and yeah, this infrastructure is as good as anything you could find in inner London. It's also one of several really high quality main road segregated routes that Enfield has already built, and it also has a few other schemes in the works. Enfield are currently consulting on a really quite good looking protected cycle route from Ponders End into Enfield Town Centre. They recently consulted on another great looking cycle path up to Broxbourne along the New River, and soon they should be consulting on a couple more low traffic neighbourhoods, one in Edmonton Green where we started, and another in Bowes East next to one of their existing LTNs. Basically, they're a very busy borough, and I think they're doing a really good job, especially for an outer London council. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that we dive into a service road and things go wrong. We dived into another one while I was talking there, and it was all fine. So that means that the third one is just coming up here ahead. I just follow the cycle symbols and arrows directing me into it, and things start off generally okay, but they suddenly turn very bad. I've sped up the next section of footage to 3 times speed, by the way, just because it's kind of boring to watch, but I also want to show you what's going on. As you can see, car after car gets stuck, one person's just nipping in for a pint of milk, more people are also parking on the yellow lines, and there are plenty of people parking on the pavement as well, so you can't even overtake them, and it basically is just awful. This here needs both a better design and better enforcement, I think. One way that you could actually fix at least the pavement parking would be to put more of these cycle stands on the right down the pavement, effectively blocking the access of people who want to drive on it. The council could also start rationing the parking there by charging for it, as there's clearly not enough of it to go around for the people who want to use it. I'd love to write off that experience as a one-off, but unfortunately I understand that it's a relatively common one outside that parade of shops, just because there are so many people trying to drive and park there, and frankly it just isn't built for it. Hopefully, as Enfield continues to build decent cycle lanes like this and put in more low traffic neighbourhoods and such like that, people will choose more sustainable ways to pop to the shops than driving a massive SUV on the pavement. By the way, I just thought I would give my usual warning in these videos that if you need a map of the route, then you can find a link in the description below, and you can download it in a GPX file and use it on whatever app or device you use. However, maybe it's a bit redundant in this case, because so far this video has literally just been a straight line, so I don't think you're going to have too much trouble remembering which way to go. That is until now. You need to remember which point to turn off right. You have to cross Hertford Road, and there's a parallel zebra crossing that you need to use just coming up here. But do not, under any circumstances, just swing out right, because boom, there's a car overtaking you. You need to turn out left, look both ways, and then cross the road. And it puts you into Albany Leisure Centre, which is the entrance to Albany Park. Now, this is a shared path which is shared with pedestrians, so just make sure you don't ride too quickly, give everyone plenty of space, and just be considerate to anyone walking here, although it is a nice, smooth, wide path, so I reckon you shouldn't run into too many problems. Just a note to say that although this path is relatively open, and so is the park we're about to go into, it doesn't have any street lighting you can see, so if you're coming here at night, just make sure you've got a good pair of lights, and be aware if you're the kind of person who doesn't like cycling in relatively isolated places in the dark, this might not be one for you to get through here. When you get into Albany Park, you want to turn left, and we're going to try and head for the far corner of the park. So you turn off right here, and you go through this really quite nicely landscaped bit of the park. Some of the park is quite windswept, but this bit's really quite lovely, I think, what they've done with the sort of wild grasses and trees and such. And as that grows, I think it's going to make the place look really, really nice. Just want to give my usual thanks to everyone on the Patreon, by the way. Thanks so much for your help with this one. If anyone else would like to contribute as well, chuck us a couple of quid a month, then you can find the link in the description below. Now, do not cross that bridge on the left there. What you want to do is cross the second bridge, which is just here and which has the green sign pointing over it. You're actually going over the Turkey Brook here. Head for the dropped curb and you'll find yourself on Standard Road. And what is there to say about this road? It is a relatively standard road, apart from the fact that it is a cul-de-sac, and so there's no through traffic on here, and it's thus a very, very pleasant place to ride a bike. Now, when we get to the end of this street, I'm going to dismount and I'm just going to walk down the pavement for a second, because we're on Ordnance Road and Enfield Lock railway station is just there on our right. So we're actually here and we've made it. So thank you so much for watching that, guys. Kind of a different one today, very much a straight line, which is quite different from your usual London cycle routes fare of winding through millions of back streets, but there you go. I like to keep a bit of variety on this channel. And I will see you all again next time. Make sure you leave a comment to let me know what you think of that very direct route, I think it's fair to say. And make sure you hit like on the video, hit subscribe if you haven't already, posting new videos every week. And thanks again to the Patreon subscribers, both current and future. I'll see you guys again next time.